My husband laughed when I collapsed in the hotel lobby and said I was faking the sprain because I was jealous of Sienna, in front of his entire family and every employee in his company. He handed my seat on the island tour to the woman he had been sleeping with. I smiled, slid my wedding ring off my finger, and saved the storm warning he had just deleted from our group chat 6 hours earlier. I had died in the ocean. I still remembered the taste of salt filling my mouth. I remembered my fingers slipping against the wet metal railing. Most of all, I remembered Liam looking directly at me before pulling Sienna into the rescue raft. "There is only room for one," he had shouted over the storm. Sienna had wrapped both arms around his neck. I had been closer to him. I had been his wife. But Liam had looked at her, then at me. "Sienna cannot swim," he said. "You can hold on a little longer." He had turned away before the next wave hit. The ocean had torn my hands from the railing and dragged me beneath the broken deck. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in the bathtub of our hotel suite. The water was warm. My lungs were empty. My skin was uninjured. For several seconds, I could only stare at the white ceiling while the sound of the storm remained trapped inside my head. Then Liam knocked on the bathroom door. "Nora, are you planning to stay in there all morning? We leave for Morocco at 9. His voice was impatient, alive, unchanged. I reached for my phone. August 17th, the day of the island tour, the day I died. A marine notification was glowing across the screen. Small craft advisory in effect. I opened the extended forecast. The tropical depression south of Port Haven had shifted north during the night. Wind speeds were rising. The projected path had moved directly across the route between the mainland and Morocco. It was exactly the warning I had shown Liam in my first life. Back then, he had barely glanced at it. "Forecasts change," he had said when the hotel cancelled its official tour. I had begged him not to find another boat. Sienna had laughed. "You work in risk analysis," she had said. "Of course you think everything is dangerous." Liam's mother had accused me of ruining her birthday trip. His employees had stood around in embarrassed silence. Liam had told me that if I truly supported him, I would stop trying to humiliate him in front of his staff. So I had gone. I had spent the final hours of my life apologizing to the people who were taking me toward my death. This time, I would not step onto that boat. "Nora," Liam struck the door harder. "Sienna is already downstairs." Of course she was. Sienna Vale had always arrived early when she wanted something that belonged to me. I stood and wrapped a towel around myself. My hands were shaking, but my thoughts were clear. I could not tell anyone I had already died. Liam would call me unstable. Sienna would film me. His mother would use it as proof that I was too emotional to remain involved in the company. I needed a reason they would accept, not a warning, not a prediction, an injury. 20 minutes later, I dressed in white linen pants, a loose blue shirt, and flat sandals. I placed my passport, financial files, laptop, and medication inside my carry-on bag. Then I opened the Hart family travel chat. The weather warning I had seen 5 minutes earlier was gone. Liam had deleted it. A new message appeared. "Liam, the official tour company is being dramatic. I am arranging a private charter. We are still going." Sienna reacted with a flame emoji. Diane wrote, "Finally, someone willing to make a decision." I took screenshots. Then I opened our joint bank account. A transfer for $18,000 was pending. The recipient was Victor Hale Marine Services. I recognized the name. Victor had been the captain in my first life. I downloaded the transaction record and sent it to my private email. Then I cancelled the automatic monthly transfer from my salary account into our joint account. The confirmation appeared almost instantly. "Automatic transfer disabled." It was the first thing I had ever taken back from Liam. I put my phone into my pocket and walked toward the stairs. The hotel lobby was one floor below. Through the open atrium, I could already hear Sienna laughing. "I told Liam Nora would find an excuse," she said. "She hates the ocean. I do not know why she came at all." Diane replied, "Everything has to be about her anxiety." Liam said nothing. He never needed to defend me when other people were willing to hurt me for him. I reached the final turn in the staircase, then I hooked the edge of my sandal against the carpet and threw my weight sideways. My ankle struck the lower step. Pain shot through my leg, sharp enough to make my scream real. I landed hard against the railing. Several people looked up. Liam reached me first, but he did not ask whether I was hurt. His eyes went directly to the clock above the front desk. You cannot be serious. I held my ankle and breathed. Through the pain, I slipped. Sienna came closer, already holding her phone. Oh my God, is it broken? Her voice sounded concerned. Her camera was pointed directly at my face. I need ice, I said. Liam stared at me. The expression was the same one he had worn when I showed him the warning in my first life. Irritation, suspicion, disgust that I had created a problem he might have to acknowledge. You were walking normally 5 seconds ago. I was walking down the stairs, and now, right before we leave, you suddenly cannot stand. His employees were watching. His mother folded her arms. Sienna lowered her phone just enough to pretend she was not recording. Liam's voice grew louder. If you do not want to come, Nora, just admit it. Do not embarrass me with this performance. In my first life, those words would have broken something inside me. I would have tried to prove my loyalty. I would have stood despite the pain. I would have boarded the boat because I was more afraid of being called selfish than I was of dying this time. I looked up at him and nodded. All right, he frowned. All right what? I am not going. Silence spread across the lobby. Diane gave a short, disgusted laugh. After everything Liam paid for, the $18,000 had come from our joint account. More than 70% of the money in that account had come from me. I did not correct her. Sienna crouched beside me. Her perfume was the same scent I had smelled on Liam's shirts for the past 3 months. If Nora stays, she said softly, I could take her seat. Only if she is comfortable with that. She was already wearing Liam's spare polarized sunglasses. In my first life, I had watched her use my sunscreen, my equipment, my emergency medication, and finally my husband's arms. I looked at her and smiled. Take it. Liam's face relaxed immediately. That hurt more than I expected, not because I still wanted him to choose me, because some part of me had hoped death had exaggerated what he was. It had not. Good, he said, then this does not have to ruin everyone's day. He turned toward the luggage. I reached into my pocket, removed my wedding ring, and placed it on top of his leather travel case. The small sound of metal against the brass zipper made him stop. What are you doing? My hand is swelling, I said calmly. I do not want to lose it. It was not my hand that was swelling. Liam looked at the ring, then at me. For 1 second, uncertainty crossed his face. Sienna touched his arm. We should go. Victor said the water will get rough afternoon. I looked directly at her phone. Did he? She realized she had revealed more than she intended. Liam stepped between us. Stop interrogating her. I asked one question. You always do this. You collect details until you can convince everyone that you are the only responsible person in the room. Behind him, through the glass entrance, I saw the hotel manager hurrying toward us with a printed notice in his hand. Mr. Hart, he called, the harbor office has upgraded the marine alert. We strongly recommend that your group remain on the mainland. Liam closed his eyes as if the man had personally insulted him. Sienna lifted her phone again. Diane muttered, more panic. I took out my own phone and photographed the notice before anyone could remove it. Then I emailed the image, the deleted chat warning, and the charter payment record to myself, Hart and Tide's insurer, and the Port Haven Harbor Office. Subject, formal safety objection tomorrow. Key charter. My thumb hovered over the screen for only a moment, then I pressed send. Liam saw the confirmation. His face hardened. You are reporting your own husband. I am creating a record. Of what? Of my answer. He stared at me. I had spent 4 years softening every answer so he would not feel challenged. Not anymore. The hotel staff brought me an ice pack and a wheelchair. Liam left without saying goodbye. His mother followed him. One by one, the employees carried their bags toward the waiting vans. Maya Chen, the company's youngest camera operator, stopped beside me. Do you really think it is dangerous? She whispered. Yes. Her fingers tightened around the strap of her camera bag. Then why are they still going? Because Liam needed to be right, because Sienna needed an audience, because Diane believed consequences were things other families suffered, because I had spent years making sure none of them ever had to pay for their own decisions. I looked at Maya. You do not have to get on that boat. Her eyes moved toward Liam, who was standing outside beside the company van. If I refuse, he will fire me. I wanted to tell her that losing a job was better than losing her life. I had said those words in my first life. She had gone anyway. This time, I opened my contacts and sent her the number for the harbor safety office. keep your camera running. I said, do not let anyone delete the original files. Maya swallowed and nodded. At 8:47, the vans left the hotel. At 9:23, the official Morrow Key tour was cancelled. At 9:38, Liam transferred another $4,000 to Victor Hale. At 10:11, the Sea Wren left Port Haven with 14 people aboard. I watched from the hotel's second-floor terrace. Sienna stood at the front of the boat wearing my yellow storm jacket. Liam stood behind her with one hand resting on her waist. Her live stream was open on my phone. To the people who let fear control their lives, she told her viewers, turning the camera toward the shrinking coastline. This is what freedom looks like. The wind pulled her hair across Liam's face. He laughed and kissed her temple. He did not know I had seen it. He did not know I had already seen him choose her once before. By noon, the sky over the Gulf had turned the color of bruised steel. At 12:20, the tropical storm warning appeared. At 12:46, Port Haven closed the harbor. At 1:17, Sienna's livestream returned. The image shook violently. Rain struck the lens. Someone behind her was shouting that they needed to turn back. Then Liam's voice rose above the wind. We did not come all this way to leave without the cove footage. The camera swung toward him. He was not wearing a life jacket. Neither was Sienna. A wave crashed across the deck. The screen tilted, showing gray water, white railings, and Maya on her knees reaching for a storage compartment. For one brief second, Liam looked directly into Sienna's camera. Behind him, the horizon disappeared. A black wall of rain and water moved toward the boat. The live stream filled with screaming. Then the storm swallowed them all. For 3 seconds, the screen remained black. Then Sienna's livestream ended. I stood beside the hotel window with my phone in one hand and the ice pack sliding from my ankle. The rain had not reached Port Haven yet, but the glass was already vibrating beneath the pressure of the wind. Below me, tourists hurried in from the beach. Hotel employees pulled umbrellas from the patio tables and locked the pool gates. Beyond the harbor, the ocean had vanished behind a wall of dark cloud. My phone rang. Diane's name flashed across the screen. I answered and immediately heard wind, crying, and the sharp crackle of a damaged connection. Nora. Her voice sounded smaller than I had ever heard it. Where are you? On the boat. We cannot see the shore. Victor says the navigation system is not working. Put him on the phone. He is bleeding. Something crashed near her, Diane screamed. Then Liam's voice came through the line. Nora, call someone. I almost laughed. He had spent the entire morning telling everyone that I exaggerated danger. Now that the danger was real, he expected me to solve it. Has Victor sent a distress call? I do not know. Is the emergency beacon active? There was a pause. What beacon? I closed my eyes. In my first life, the Coast Guard had not found the wreckage until the following morning. By then, the Sea Wren had broken apart against the reef. Look near the rear cabin. I said, there should be an emergency position beacon mounted beside the radio. I cannot get there. The deck is underwater. Then use the radio. Channel 16. Sienna lost her phone. Mine is at 5%. Liam, listen to me. Where are you? Near the island. That is not a location. I do not know. You insisted on arranging this trip. You paid the captain. You ignored the harbor warning. You need to tell me where you took everyone. Someone shouted his name. Liam cursed. Nora. Stop trying to prove a point and help us. The line disconnected for a moment. All I heard was my own breathing. Then I called emergency services. I gave the dispatcher the vessel name, the number of passengers, the captain's name, the intended destination, and the last location shown in Sienna's livestream. Do you know their exact route? The dispatcher asked. No, they changed it after leaving the harbor. How do you know that? Because they wanted to film the North Cove. That was what they had done. In my first life, Sienna had convinced Liam that the northern cliffs would look dramatic under storm clouds. Victor had warned that the route passed close to Black Tooth Reef, but Liam had offered him more money. I gave the dispatcher the coordinates I had memorized while drowning. The numbers felt burned into my mind. Why do you have those coordinates? She asked. I work in risk analysis. I reviewed the route before they left. It was not the full truth, but it was enough. The hotel manager, James Pollard, entered the room as I finished the call. His suit jacket was wet from the first rain. We have been instructed to move guests away from the eastern windows. He said, "The harbor is completely closed. The Sea Wren is in distress." His face changed. "How do you know?" "I was speaking to my mother-in-law." He took out his phone. "I will contact the harbor master. Tell them to search north of Morrow Key, near Black Tooth Reef." James stared at me for half a second, then nodded while he made the call. I opened my laptop and created a new document at the top. I typed the date and time below it. I recorded everything: the first weather warning, the deleted group message, the official tour cancellation, the payment to Victor Hale, the hotel manager's warning, the time the Sea Wren left the harbor, the moment Sienna's livestream ended. I attached screenshots, account records, and copies of my emails. In my first life, every warning I gave had been verbal. Liam had denied most of them after my death. Sienna had told investigators that I encouraged the trip because the publicity would benefit the company. This time, there would be a record at 2:37. Liam called again. The connection was worse. "We hit something. Is the boat sinking? The lower cabin is flooded. Are the life jackets on?" He did not answer. "Liam, Sienna is hurt." That was his answer, not whether his mother was safe, not whether his employees were wearing life jackets. Sienna was hurt. "Where is Maya?" I asked. "I do not know." "What about Ben?" I said I do not know. He sounded angry with me, as if the names of the other passengers were distractions from the only person he cared about. "Get everyone onto the highest stable section of the vessel," I said. "Stay together. Do not enter the water unless the boat breaks apart. Send a helicopter. I have already contacted emergency services. Tell them I own Heart and Tide. Tell them this will be national news." For one stunned second, I said nothing. Even now, he thought his name could move the storm. "Rescue crews are not waiting for a branding opportunity," I said. "They need your location. I cannot give you what I do not have." "Then find Victor's chart. Look for the emergency beacon." "I told you, the rear deck is underwater." A woman screamed in the background. The line went silent at 3:14. The power failed across the eastern side of the hotel. Emergency lights came on in the corridor. Guests gathered in the conference hall while the staff covered the windows with storm shutters. I sat at a long table near the wall, my ankle elevated on another chair, listening to the rescue radio James had brought from the security office. Search vessels could not leave the harbor safely. A Coast Guard helicopter had been redirected from another station, but visibility was poor. The Sea Wren had no active emergency beacon. Its tracking system had stopped transmitting shortly after 10 in the morning. At 4:19, a weak distress call reached the harbor. A male voice said, 14 aboard, vessel grounded, 1 overboard. Then nothing. 14 aboard, 1 overboard. In my first life, that person had been me. This time, someone else had taken my place on the passenger list. I gripped the edge of the table. I had prevented my own death, but I had not changed Liam's decisions. He had still chosen the dangerous route. He had still ignored the warnings. He had still taken employees who feared losing their jobs. My survival did not erase their danger. At 5:12, Diane called again. I fell. She sobbed. My shoulder is broken. Where is Liam? With Sienna. The words came out before she could stop them. I stared at the dark wall across from me. Is Maya with you? Yes. She pulled me onto a ledge. Put her on. There was movement. Then Maya's shaking voice. Nora, are you injured? My leg is cut. Ben is missing. Victor is unconscious. Is your camera still attached to you? Yes. Do not remove the memory card. Keep it inside the waterproof casing. Why? Because people will lie when this is over. Maya began crying. I should have listened to you. You need to survive first. Regret can wait. I asked her to describe what she saw. The Sea Wren had struck the reef and split near the rear cabin. Half the passengers had climbed onto a narrow rock shelf. The others were trapped on a section of the vessel pinned against the reef. Liam and Sienna were on the higher part of the wreck. Diane and Maya were on the rock. Ben had disappeared after trying to release the life raft. Do you see any lights? I asked. A red light west of us. It comes and goes. That may be the rescue helicopter. Use the camera light in sets of 3. I will try. The call ended at 6 o'clock. The storm passed directly over Morrow Key. The radio became silent. No calls, no signals, no voices. I sat beneath the emergency lights while the Hart family group chat filled with messages from relatives who had only learned about the accident through Sienna's final livestream. Where is Liam? Why did Nora let them leave? Did she know this would happen? Someone wrote that I had always hated Sienna. Another person asked why I had stayed safely at the hotel while everyone else risked their lives. I took screenshots of every message, then I turned off notifications. At 11:43 that night, the Coast Guard located wreckage near Black Tooth Reef. They found 7 people on the rocks. 4 more were recovered from the broken vessel. 2 were found in an inflatable raft nearly 3 miles east. 1 person remained missing. Ben Lawson. At 12:16, James entered the conference hall. They found your husband, he said. I looked up. Alive. Yes. Relief moved through me, but it was not love, it was the release of a breath I had been holding for a human life, not for my marriage. And Sienna, alive. Diane, alive, injured, but stable. Maya, she is being transported with the others. I nodded. James hesitated. There are reporters outside. The live stream spread before the network went down. Do not give them my room number. I will not. He turned to leave. James, he looked back. I need a copy of the lobby surveillance footage from this morning. The stairs, the front desk, and the hotel entrance. His expression sharpened. Why? Because by tomorrow, someone will say the warnings never happened. He studied me for a moment. Then he said, I will preserve it. At 3 in the morning, I returned to my suite. Liam's suitcase was still open beside the bed. His clothes were scattered across the chair. My wedding ring remained on top of the leather case where I had left it. I picked it up. For 4 years, I had worn it as proof that I belonged to someone. Now it looked like evidence from a life that had already ended. I placed it in an envelope with the date written across the front. Then I slept without it for the first time since my wedding. The hospital smelled of disinfectant, seawater, and wet fabric. Reporters crowded the main entrance. Police officers stood near the elevators. Families filled the halls, waiting for names and updates. I arrived shortly after sunrise with my laptop, the evidence folder, and a printed copy of the email I had sent before the Sea Wren left the harbor. Diane was in surgery for her shoulder. Maya had received stitches and was being treated for hypothermia. Victor Hale had a head injury and 2 broken ribs. Liam had a fractured wrist, several deep cuts, and mild hypothermia. Sienna had bruises, a dislocated knee, and a thin cut across her forehead that she would later describe online as a permanent scar, although it healed. Within weeks, Ben was still missing. A nurse led me toward Liam's room. Sienna was already there. She lay in the second bed. Although she had been assigned to another room, her hand was wrapped around Liam's uninjured arm. When he saw me, he did not look relieved, he looked furious. You took your time. I stopped inside the doorway. I came when the hospital called. We almost died. I know. You knew the storm would hit. I warned you. You did not warn us enough. The nurse beside me went still. I looked at him carefully. What would have been enough? Liam, you could have stopped the boat. How? You own part of the company. The boat did not belong to the company. You could have frozen the account. The transfer was already pending when I discovered it. You could have called the harbor. I did. Sienna shifted in her bed. Her face was pale, but her voice carried the same practiced softness she used in videos. This is not the time to argue. I turned to her. You told your followers that people who stayed behind were controlled by fear. Her mouth tightened. I was trying to keep everyone calm. You were live streaming. It is my job. Ben's job was lighting. Maya's job was filming. Neither of them was hired to risk death so you could repair your engagement numbers. Liam pushed himself upright. Do not blame her. The movement made him wince, even injured. His first instinct was to protect Sienna from me. I remembered the rescue raft. There is only room for one. I placed the printed email on the table beside his bed. This is the formal safety objection I sent before you left. It went to the company, the insurer, the hotel, and the harbor office. His eyes moved over the first page. You reported us to the insurer. I documented that I did not authorize the trip. We are married. That does not make me responsible for every decision you make. Sienna released his arm. People are missing. Nora, one person is missing. His name is Ben. She looked away. A hospital administrator entered carrying several forms. Mrs. Hart, we need to discuss billing authorization. Liam looked at me. Handle it. The words were automatic. For years, every crisis had ended with Liam saying those two words: handle it. Late fees, tax documents, employee complaints, his mother's medical bills, Sienna's unpaid hotel room from a company event. I had handled everything until Liam began believing consequences disappeared because he deserved a simple life. The administrator handed me a form. It authorized the hospital to charge our joint account for all costs not covered by insurance, including treatment for people listed as company guests. I read every page, then I crossed out every name except Liam's. You cannot do that, he said. I am not accepting financial responsibility for Sienna, Victor, or the employees. They were on a company trip. It was not an authorized company trip. You arranged it after the official tour was cancelled. I am the chief executive officer. And I am the shareholder whose written objection you ignored. His face darkened. You are choosing now to punish me. No, I am choosing not to protect you from what you chose. Sienna began crying. The tears arrived silently, perfect for a camera. This is my fault, she whispered. I should never have come. Liam reached for her. No, do not say that. I watched him comfort her. Then the nurse handed me a clear plastic bag containing the possessions removed from Liam's wet clothing: his wallet, a damaged watch, 2 room keys, his phone, and another phone in a black waterproof case. I had never seen it before. Liam noticed where I was looking. Give me that. His voice changed, not angry now, afraid. The second phone had no lock screen photograph, only a notification banner: Sienna V. Did she die this time? The room seemed to narrow. I read the message twice. Liam pulled against the rail of his bed. Nora, give me my property. Sienna had stopped crying. What does she mean? I asked. It is out of context, Liam said. What does this time mean? She was panicking. Why would she ask whether I died? Sienna shook her head. I do not remember sending that. You sent it after the rescue. I was medicated. The timestamp is from before you reached the hospital. Liam held out his hand. Give me the phone. I placed it back into the evidence bag. Then I gave the bag to the nurse. Please record that this device was received with his property and that I have not opened it. Liam stared at me. What are you doing? Creating a record. Again the phrase frightened him now. A police officer appeared at the door. Mr. Hart, when your doctor clears you, we need to ask about the disabled tracking equipment and the decision to continue toward Morocco. Liam looked at me as if I had brought the officer. I had not. For once, consequences had found him without my assistance. I left the room. In the hallway, I found Maya sitting in a wheelchair with a blanket around her shoulders. Her camera bag rested on her lap. You kept it, I said. She nodded. The outer casing cracked, but the card should be dry. Has anyone asked for it? Liam did, on the helicopter. What did you say? That I lost it? A faint, exhausted smile crossed her face. I lied. Good. Her smile vanished. Ben was holding the life raft line. A wave hit us. Liam told Victor to start the engine again. Even though the rope was still in the water, my stomach tightened. Did the camera record that? I think so. Do not give the card to me yet. Give it directly to an attorney or investigator. Someone who can document the chain of custody. Do you know someone? I will. She reached for my hand. I am sorry I got on the boat. I looked at her bandaged leg. Liam made you believe your job depended on obedience. It did. No job is worth that. I know now. Across the corridor, a television showed footage from Sienna's livestream. The final seconds played repeatedly beneath a banner announcing the missing passenger. Then the channel switched to a reporter standing outside the hospital. We are receiving claims that one member of the group remained behind after raising concerns about the weather. Questions are already being asked about what she knew and why the trip was allowed to continue. Maya looked at me. They are talking about you. I know. Will you speak to them? Not yet. Why not? Because I have facts. They have a story. If I respond before I know every fact, they will turn my reaction into the story. My phone rang. It was my employer. I answered. My department director spoke carefully. Nora, given the public attention and your financial connection to Heart and Tide, we need you to take temporary administrative leave. For how long? Until the initial investigation clarifies your involvement. I sent a written warning before departure. I understand. Send it to our legal department. He paused. I am sorry. When the call ended, I stood alone beside the hospital window. Liam had risked 14 lives. Sienna had broadcast the decision. Victor had taken the money, but I was the one losing my job because I had survived. The anger came then, not loud, not wild. It settled into me like steel. I opened my contacts and called Elena Ruiz, an attorney I had worked with during a corporate disaster liability case 2 years earlier. She answered on the fourth ring. Nora, I need a divorce attorney, an insurance fraud attorney, and someone who understands maritime investigations. What happened? My husband sailed into a tropical storm with his mistress, used our money to pay the captain, and came back blaming me. There was a short silence, then Elena said, do not access his second phone, do not delete anything, do not speak publicly, meet me in 2 hours. For the first time since I woke in the bathtub, I felt the ground beneath me become solid. Elena's office occupied the 5th floor of a converted warehouse near the river. She listened without interrupting as I described the trip, my warnings, the accident, and the second phone I did not tell her I had lived through the day before. I told her that Liam's behavior had made me suspicious weeks earlier. That part was true. Sienna's perfume had appeared on his clothes, he had begun hiding financial statements, he had changed the password to the company insurance portal. I had ignored each sign because acknowledging one would have forced me to acknowledge all of them. Elena reviewed my evidence folder. You did several things correctly, she said. You made a written objection, you notified relevant parties, you preserved account records, you did not access the second device after seeing the lock screen message. Will the police examine it? If it becomes relevant to the accident or fraud investigation, they can seek access through the proper process. In the divorce, we can request preservation of the device and related cloud accounts. What if he destroys it? We send a litigation hold today. She leaned back. Now tell me what you want. I want my name separated from his decisions. That is a legal goal. What do you want personally? I looked at the pale mark where my wedding ring had been. I want to stop being the person everyone calls after he creates a disaster. Do you want to remain married? No. The answer came without hesitation. Elena nodded once. Then we begin there. She drafted notices preserving Liam's phones, emails, company records, insurance documents, payment history, and communications with Sienna and Victor. She also arranged for a forensic accountant to review Heart and Tide by noon. The hospital called 3 times. I ignored the first 2 calls. On the third, a nurse said Diane was asking for me. I returned to the hospital with Elena's instructions in my bag. Diane sat upright in bed with her arm immobilized, bruises covered one side of her face. Sienna sat near the window, scrolling through her phone. Liam was in a wheelchair beside his mother. The moment I entered, Diane began speaking. You need to fix this. Not hello, not thank you. Forgiving rescuers the location. Fix this. What exactly do you want fixed? I asked. The reporters, the company, the hospital bills. Liam says you froze the joint account. I stopped automatic transfers from my private salary account. That is the same thing. No, it is not. Liam rolled closer. Our employees need help. Then use the company emergency fund. His eyes shifted away. I understood immediately. There is no emergency fund. We used part of it for the investor campaign. You used all of it. We expected the new funding next month. Sienna lowered her phone. The island footage was supposed to secure the campaign. Ben was missing because they wanted footage for an investor campaign. Diane pressed her lips together. This is not the time to assign blame. Then why did you call me? Because family stands together during a crisis. You mean I pay, and none of you answer questions? Liam's jaw tightened. Do not speak to my mother like that. I almost admired the certainty with which he still believed he could command me. You left her on a rock while Maya pulled her out of the water. His face went still. Diane looked at him. What is she talking about? Nothing. Maya told me where everyone was. I was injured. You were on the upper section with Sienna. She could not walk. I could not swim. Diane said quietly. Liam turned toward her. Mom, the boat was breaking apart, and you did not come back. I was going to. When? Sienna stood. This conversation is cruel. We were all terrified. Diane looked at her. You were wearing Nora's life jacket. The room fell silent. Sienna touched the collar of her hospital gown. It was the closest one. It had Nora's name on it. Liam gave it to me before the storm. Diane's eyes moved toward her son. Liam said nothing. A hospital employee entered before the silence could deepen. He handed me another billing document. I gave it to Elena, who had arrived behind me. This is my attorney, I said. Liam stared at her. You brought a lawyer into my mother's hospital room. I brought a lawyer because you used our joint funds to arrange an unauthorized trip after receiving multiple safety warnings. Diane looked shocked. You are threatening him while Ben is still missing. No, I am refusing to be threatened into accepting his debt. Elena placed a document on the table. This is a notice to preserve all electronic devices, company communications, insurance records, and financial transactions connected to the trip. Liam did not touch it. You planned this fast. I should have planned it years ago, I said. Sienna's phone rang. She looked at the screen and left the room. A minute later, a video appeared online. She had filmed it earlier from her hospital bed. In the video, her face was pale and unfiltered. A bandage covered the cut on her forehead. My best friend and I nearly died yesterday, she said. I am not ready to share every detail, but I cannot stay silent while people blame the survivors. The video cut to old footage of me disagreeing with Liam at a company event. Then it showed my empty seat on the boat. Nora knew the weather was dangerous, Sienna continued. She chose to stay behind, but she did not tell the rest of us how serious it was. Whatever personal issues existed between us, no one deserved what happened. The final caption read, she knew. She let us go. By the time I finished watching, the video had thousands of comments. Some called me jealous, others called me a murderer. One person posted my employer's contact information. Liam watched my face. You should release a statement taking some responsibility. For what? For not making the danger clear. I sent you the official warning. You send warnings about everything. That does not make them false. If you apologize, the story may calm down. I looked at him. He was asking me to lie so the woman he loved could protect her reputation. Again, in my first life, I had spent my final hours apologizing. Not this time. I will not apologize for surviving a decision I tried to stop. I turned and walked out. In the elevator, Elena's phone rang. She listened for less than a minute, then she looked at me. The Coast Guard recovered Ben's body. I closed my eyes. The elevator continued downward. When the doors opened, reporters were waiting in the lobby. They shouted my name. Did you know the storm would hit? Why did you stay behind? Were you trying to punish your husband? I did not answer. I walked through them with Elena beside me. Outside, rainwater ran along the curb in dark streams. Ben Lawson had died because Liam could not tolerate being told no. I would not let them turn his death into another story about my jealousy. Ben's memorial was held 4 days later. His sister, Rachel, stood at the front of a small church and described a man who called their mother every Sunday, rescued stray dogs, and accepted the Heart and Tide job because he hoped it would lead to documentary work. Liam attended with his wrist in a brace. Sienna sat beside him. I sat in the back after the service. Rachel approached me in the parking lot. You are Nora? Yes. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. Liam said you were responsible for safety. I reviewed insurance risks and business continuity. I did not authorize marine operations. He said you knew the storm was coming. I sent him the warning before they left. Did Ben receive it? I thought about the deleted group message. I do not know. She looked toward Liam, who was speaking to a reporter near the church entrance. My brother told me he did not want to go. He said Liam threatened to replace anyone who stayed behind. I am trying to obtain the company messages. If you find them, I want to see them. You will. That evening, Diane summoned everyone to her house for what she called a family meeting. I almost refused. Elena advised me to attend only if I recorded my own notes and did not sign anything. When I arrived, 12 relatives were gathered around Diane's dining table. Sienna sat beside Liam, my former place. Diane had arranged printed statements at every seat. The document said the accident resulted from unexpected weather and communication failures. It also stated that all Hart family members agreed to cooperate in rebuilding the company. At the bottom was a signature line for me. I remained standing. What is this? A unified statement, Diane said. The family cannot keep fighting in public. I have not spoken publicly. Your silence is making Liam look guilty. His actions are making him look guilty. Several relatives shifted uncomfortably. Liam pointed toward the empty chair across from him. Sit down. No. Diane's mouth tightened. We have already lost enough. I looked around the table. For years of birthdays, holiday dinners, and family vacations, I had paid for many of them. None of these people had called to ask whether I was all right after learning that my husband had given my place to another woman. They had only called when they wanted money, access, or silence. Diane pushed the statement toward me. We need your savings placed in a temporary compensation account. The employees cannot wait for the insurer. How much? 300,000. A quiet sound escaped one of the relatives. I looked at Liam. Where is the company money? We discussed this. No. You said the emergency fund was used. You did not say where the rest of the money went. The company has obligations. To whom? The investor campaign, equipment leases, marketing, Sienna's marketing. Sienna raised her chin. My work created most of Heart and Tide's recent visibility. Your work also created the video blaming me. I told the truth as I experienced it. You told your followers that I hid the danger. I have an email proving otherwise. Diane struck the table with her uninjured hand. This is exactly the problem. You would rather prove you are right than save your husband. I set my bag on the table, then I removed 4 binders. The first contained every transfer I had made into Heart and Tide, the second contained household expenses, the third contained loans I had personally guaranteed, the fourth contained payments made to businesses connected to Sienna. Liam's face changed as I opened the first binder. In 4 years, I contributed $486,000 to this company. I said, I also paid 72% of our household expenses. No one spoke. I opened the second binder. I covered Diane's roof replacement, her private medical deductible, and the debt from Liam's first failed travel venture. Diane's cheeks flushed. That was family assistance. Yes, from me. I opened the third binder. My credit secured 2 equipment loans and the company's office lease. One of Liam's uncles looked at him. You said the investors backed those loans. They did later, Liam said quickly. No, I said, they did not. I opened the final binder. Over the last 10 months, Heart and Tide paid Sienna $122,000 for consulting, lodging, travel, and content rights. Sienna stood. That was contracted work. Then why were $46,000 transferred to your personal account without invoices? Liam's face hardened. You accessed confidential company records. I own 42% of the company. You were not involved in daily operations. I was involved enough to guarantee the debt. Diane looked around the table. This does not change the fact that people need help. I agree. For the first time, she appeared relieved. I continued. That is why I will support an independent compensation fund controlled by a third party. Company assets will be audited. Payments will go to the injured employees and Ben's family. Not to Liam, not to Sienna, not to a public relations campaign. Liam leaned forward. You cannot take control of my company. It is not only your company. It was my idea. It was my money. His expression turned cold. There it was, the face he used when charm failed. You are doing this because of Sienna. No, Sienna is only the part of your betrayal that wears perfume. The room went silent. I removed another envelope. Inside were formal separation papers and notice that I was withdrawing all voluntary financial support from the Hart household. I placed them in front of Liam. Diane stared at the envelope. You cannot be serious. I have never been more serious. Liam did not open it. You are leaving me while I am injured. You left our marriage long before the storm. Sienna folded her arms. If you are accusing us of something, say it clearly. I looked at her. You slept with my husband. You helped him hide company payments. You publicly lied about my warning. And before the rescue, you sent him a message asking whether I had died. Her face lost color. Several relatives looked at Liam. He stood so quickly that his chair struck the wall. You saw one message. I preserved one message. Investigators will determine what else exists. You are trying to destroy me. No, I stopped holding you together. I turned toward the door. Diane called after me. Family does not walk away when things become difficult. I stopped. For 4 years, I was family whenever you needed something. I looked back at the crowded table. When I needed one person to believe me, you all chose the boat. Then I left in my car. An email from James was waiting. The hotel had preserved the lobby surveillance footage. He had also found something else. At 8:36 on the morning of the trip, Sienna had removed the printed storm warning from the hotel information board. The camera showed her tearing it in half and pushing it beneath a pile of trash. Liam had been standing beside her. He had watched her do it. The campaign against me grew faster than the investigation. Sienna appeared on a morning talk show wearing pale makeup and a brace on her knee. She described the storm in a trembling voice. Then the host asked about me. Sienna looked down. I do not want to attack another woman. Nora and Liam were having problems. I think fear and jealousy affected everyone's judgment. The host leaned closer. Do you believe she withheld information? I believe she understood the risk better than the rest of us. It was a careful answer, not direct enough to be easily challenged, clear enough to condemn me. The show displayed a photograph of me taken at Ben's memorial. I was standing alone near the parking lot, my face expressionless. The caption called me the wife who stayed behind. My employer extended my leave. Anonymous accounts posted my office address. Someone left the words "you let him die" on my apartment door. I photographed the message, filed a report, and moved into a short-term rental under Elena's name. I did not respond online. Instead, I built the timeline every morning. I worked at Elena's conference table. The forensic accountant traced the company transfers. The insurance specialist compared policy documents. Elena obtained copies of the original weather alerts, the charter payment, and my emails. James provided a sworn statement that he had personally warned Liam not to leave. The Harbour office confirmed that Victor Hale had not filed the required passenger and route information before departure. Each fact was small. Together, they formed a wall. One afternoon, Rachel Lawson joined us. I showed her the company messages recovered from a work server. At 7:15 on the morning of the trip, Ben had written, "Weather looks bad, are we still required to go?" Maya responded, "Official tour may be cancelled." Liam replied, "This is a paid workday. Anyone who refuses will be considered unavailable for future field projects." Ben had answered with one word, "Understood." Rachel read the exchange without speaking, then she pressed both hands against the table. He had been trying to save enough money to move our mother closer to him. "I am sorry." "Do not say you are sorry for Liam." "I am not." She looked at me. "Are you going to release this? When investigators confirm the records, why wait?" "Because Sienna wants this to become a fight between two women. If I react too early, Liam disappears behind us." Rachel's expression hardened. "Then do not let him." "I will not." That evening, Maya contacted me from a new number. "I think someone entered my apartment," she said. "Are you there now?" "No. I am with a friend." "Did they take anything?" "My laptop is gone. My desk drawers were opened. The camera, I gave it to my attorney yesterday." Relief moved through me. "Good, there is something I did not tell you." I waited. After we hit the reef, Liam asked me whether the footage had uploaded to the company cloud. I said no. "Did it?" "Some of it. The camera sent low-resolution proxy files whenever we had a signal." "Where are they?" "On the Heart and Tide server, the same server Liam controlled." I called Elena. Within an hour, she sent an emergency preservation notice to the company's cloud provider. The next morning, Liam requested a private meeting. I refused to meet. Without attorneys, he arrived at Elena's office in a dark coat, his wrist still in a brace. He looked thinner. The polished confidence he carried into every room had begun to crack. He sat across from me. "You need to stop." "Stop what?" "The document requests, the account restrictions, contacting employees." "I have not contacted employees except Maya, who contacted me first." "You are creating panic. A man died." His jaw tightened. "Do you think I do not know that?" "I think you know it happened. I am not sure you understand why." "The weather changed. You knew it was changing before you left. We believed we had time. The official operator cancelled. They are conservative. The hotel warned you. They were protecting themselves. I warned you." He gave a bitter laugh. "You warn everyone about everything. You build your whole life around the worst possibility. And you built yours around the belief that I would pay when the worst happened." His eyes moved to my bare hand. "Is that what this is? Punishment?" "No." "Then come home." I stared at him. He leaned forward. "We can release a joint statement. We say we both underestimated the conditions. You return to the company. We create a safety foundation in Ben's name. The investors may still stay. You want me to lie? I want us to survive. You survived. You know what I mean. Yes, I knew exactly what he meant. He meant his company, his reputation, his comfortable life. Were you sleeping with Sienna before the trip? He looked away. That is unrelated. Answer me. We were confused. That is not an answer. It happened twice. The lie was so obvious that it almost embarrassed me. Your company paid for hotel rooms where you met her. His face changed. Elena showed you the records. I found the records. It was more complicated than you think. No, it was simpler than I wanted to believe. He rubbed his forehead. I was going to end it. When? After the investment closed, and after you removed me from the company. His silence answered. I pushed a printed copy of Sienna's message across the table. Did she die this time? What did she mean? I do not know. You were the recipient. She was in shock. Why did she expect me to die? She did not. Then why did she ask? He stood. This is why talking to you is impossible. You turn every sentence into evidence, because every sentence you give me is a lie. He stared down at me for a second. I saw anger in its purest form, not grief, not guilt, anger that I was no longer accepting. His version of reality. You think you are safe because you stayed behind, he said, but if the company falls, your shares become worthless. The lawsuits will reach you too. Is that a warning? It is a fact. Elena opened the conference room door. The meeting is over. Liam looked at me one last time. I hope proving you were right is worth what it costs. After he left, Maya's attorney called. The memory card was intact. The footage began 30 minutes before departure and continued until seawater damaged the camera. The first recovered clip showed Liam standing beside Victor at the dock. Victor pointed toward the darkening horizon. This is not a good idea, he said. Liam handed him an envelope. You are being paid, so it becomes a good idea. Investigators reviewed the footage before I did. Elena advised me to wait until it had been formally copied and authenticated. 3 days later, I sat in her office with Maya, Rachel, and 2 investigators. The video began with the doc. Sienna stood in front of the camera, smiling as she introduced what she called a secret island experience. Behind her, Victor checked the fuel and argued with Liam. The advisory is already active, Victor said. We go out, get the beach footage, and return. No North Cove. Liam lowered his voice. The Cove is the entire reason we hired you. It will be rough. That is why the footage will work. The video shifted as Maya boarded. Ben appeared carrying lighting equipment. Are we actually doing this? He asked. Maya answered quietly. Apparently. At 10:48, the boat reached open water. The wind increased. Victor suggested turning back. Sienna complained that the sky looked too ordinary near the southern beach. The clouds are better north of the island, she said. Victor shook his head. The reef passage is narrow. Liam stood beside him. You told me you knew these waters. I do. Then prove it. At 11:20, Victor changed course. Rachel made a sound beside me. I looked at her, but she kept her eyes on the screen. The next clip showed the passengers preparing to film. Maya opened a storage compartment containing life jackets. Liam stopped her. Not yet. They look terrible on camera. The water is rough, she said. We are not filming a safety commercial. Ben put one on anyway. Liam told him to remove it until the main sequence was complete. Ben hesitated, then he obeyed. The investigator paused the footage. Did the vessel operator hear that instruction? Maya nodded. Victor was at the controls. I do not know whether he heard every word. The footage continued. Rain began at 12:32. Victor announced that they were turning back. Sienna protested. We need 10 minutes in the cove. We do not have 10 minutes. Liam looked at the viewer count on Sienna's phone. The live stream had attracted more people as the weather worsened. He told Victor to continue. Then came the moment I had seen online. Sienna told viewers that people who stayed behind allowed fear to control them. Liam kissed her temple. My stomach tightened. But I did not look away. The investigators needed the accident. I needed the truth. At 12:58, waves began breaking over the bow. Victor ordered everyone to put on life jackets. Maya opened the compartment. There were not enough adult jackets in the correct sizes. Victor claimed several had been removed during a previous equipment delivery. Liam took the yellow jacket with my name written inside. He placed it around Sienna. Diane stood behind him. Liam, I need one. There are more below. The lower compartment was already taking water. Diane stared at the screen beside me. She had joined the review through a remote video connection after being subpoenaed as a witness. Her face went gray on the footage. Maya gave Diane a smaller jacket and tightened it as much as possible. At 1:12, the sea wren struck the first reef. Passengers fell across the deck. Ben crawled toward the life raft. Victor shouted for him to release it. A rope had wrapped near the propeller. Ben leaned over the rear rail, trying to free it. Liam shouted at Victor, "Start the engine." Victor refused. "We will pull him under. The next wave will turn us broadside." Ben raised one hand. "Wait." Liam reached past Victor and pushed the throttle. The engine roared. The rope snapped tight. Ben fell. The camera struck the deck for several seconds. The image showed only shoes, water, and broken equipment. Maya screamed his name. When the camera rose again, Ben was in the water. He had managed to catch part of the raft line. Victor tried to move toward him. Another wave struck. The line disappeared. Rachel stood abruptly. "Turn it off." The investigator stopped the video. No one spoke. Rachel walked to the window. Her shoulders shook, but she made no sound. I wanted to go to her. I remained seated because I knew comfort from me might feel like pity. After several minutes, she returned. "Continue." The final section showed the vessel grinding against Black Tooth Reef. The hull split. Maya and Diane were thrown toward the lower side. Sienna's knee was injured. Liam lifted Sienna and moved toward the higher deck. Diane called his name. He looked back for one full second. The camera captured his face. He saw his mother, then he turned away. Maya crawled across the deck, caught Diane's jacket, and pulled her toward the rock shelf. The footage ended when the camera struck the reef. No one needed to explain what it showed. Liam had not made one bad decision. He had made the same decision repeatedly. His image, his campaign, his affair, his survival. Each time, someone else paid. After the review, Diane called me. I almost did not answer. "Nora," she said, "I did not know. You did not want to know. I thought Liam was helping Sienna because she was injured. He was helping her before anyone was injured." Diane began crying. "I treated you terribly." "Yes, I believed him. You believed whatever allowed you to keep seeing him as the man you raised. He left me there." I closed my eyes. For years, Diane had defended Liam because his selfishness had never been directed at her during a moment she could not deny. Now she had seen it. "I am sorry he did that to you." I said, "Can you come over?" "No, I do not want to be alone. Call your sister, Nora. I am not the person who repairs this family anymore." She inhaled sharply. I ended the call that evening. The insurer sent Elena preliminary findings 3 days before the trip. A key person policy connected to Heart and Tide had been amended. The insured amount attached to my death had increased from $500,000 to $2 million. The authorization carried my electronic signature. The device used to sign it belonged to Liam. I stared at the policy amendment until the words lost shape. $2 million, that was the value Liam had placed on my death. Elena sat across from me. "The insurer has frozen any potential claim and referred the matter for investigation. I am alive, yes, but the forged authorization still matters." Could he argue that I gave verbal permission? He can argue anything. The question is whether evidence supports him. I remembered Liam insisting that I attend the island tour. I had told him I needed to remain at the hotel for a work call. He had become unusually angry. He said the investors wanted to see the entire leadership team in the promotional footage. He said my absence would make the company look divided. He said a supportive wife would be there. In my first life, after the official tour was cancelled, I had begged to remain behind. He had taken my passport from the hotel safe and told me he would return it after I stopped being irrational. I had boarded the boat because I was afraid he would leave me stranded without identification. That memory had seemed like ordinary cruelty. Now it looked different. I looked at Elena. "Do you think he expected me to die?" "I cannot answer that yet." Sienna's message asked whether I died. "I know. He increased the policy." "I know. He forced me onto the same trip in my first." I stopped. Elena narrowed her eyes. "In your what?" "In my mind," I said. "I kept imagining what would have happened if I went." She watched me for another moment, then continued, "We need to separate suspicion from proof. The affair, policy change, and message create a serious pattern, but we still need the full communications." The forensic team obtained a court order preserving the second phone and related cloud backups. 2 days later, Elena called me into her office. She had printed several message threads. The first began 6 months before the trip. Sienna, she will never leave you, Liam. She will when the company no longer needs her credit. Sienna, you said that last year, Liam. The next investment changes everything. Another thread discussed the insurance policy. Sienna, why does she need to be on the island? Shoot, Liam. Key person requirement. Investors want both founders visible. Sienna, you are not really worried about the weather. Liam, Nora makes every forecast sound like the end of the world. Sienna, what if it is? Liam, then she finally becomes useful without complaining. My hands went cold. Elena pointed to another message. It had been sent the night before the trip. Sienna, she is going to cancel when she sees the warning. Liam, I will get her on the boat. Sienna, and after the investment, Liam, we file. You take over her public role. She keeps enough shares to stay quiet. Sienna, I do not want her in our life. Liam, after tomorrow, we will know what we are dealing with. The words did not explicitly say he intended to kill me. They did not need to. He knew the danger. He increased the insurance. He planned to force me aboard. He joked that my death would make me useful. My phone vibrated. Liam had sent a message. Please meet me one last time. I will agree to the divorce. Elena read it. He wants something. Of course he does. The meeting took place in her conference room. Liam arrived without his attorney. He looked exhausted. His beard had grown unevenly. The expensive coat he wore could not hide the panic in his eyes. I know you found the policy, he said. I remained silent. It was a standard adjustment. You forged my signature. The broker needed it quickly. You used my identity. I was going to explain. When, after the campaign, were you going to explain the affair then too? He closed his eyes. I made mistakes. A mistake is missing a deadline. You built a second life with her and financed it with my money. I never wanted you dead. I had not asked the question. You increased the policy 3 days before taking me into a storm. The storm was not supposed to hit us. You saw the warnings. We thought we would return before it worsened. You paid Victor to ignore them. I paid for the charter. You disabled the company tracking. His eyes opened. I did not. Victor says you told him investors could watch the route through the public tracking page. He turned it off because you did not want them seeing the northern detour. That was his decision. Everything becomes someone else's decision when it goes wrong. He leaned forward. I loved you. Past tense. I still love you. No, you loved what I absorbed. That is not fair. I financed your company. I managed your home. I protected you from your mother's demands. I corrected your taxes. I apologized when you humiliated me. I stayed quiet when I suspected. Sienna, my voice remained calm. You did not love me. You loved the version of your life where I carried the weight and asked for nothing. He looked at the table. The insurer wants a statement from you. There it was. What kind of statement? That you knew about the policy adjustment? No, Nora, listen, if they classify it as fraud, everything becomes worse. The company accounts stay frozen. Ben's family may wait years for compensation. Employees lose their jobs. You used their suffering as a shield before. It will not work again. I am asking you to tell them we discussed it. We did not. We discussed insurance all the time, not that policy. You could say you forgot. I looked at him. You want me to commit fraud to protect you from committing fraud. I want you to protect what we built. What you built is sitting in this room asking me to lie. He reached into his pocket and placed my wedding ring on the table. I kept it. I left it on your suitcase. I thought you would want it back. I do not. His voice broke. We can survive this together. You survived the storm without me. He looked up. You can survive the truth the same way. I stood. He caught my wrist with his uninjured hand. Elena opened the door immediately. Release her. Liam did. I looked down at him. I am withdrawing my personal guarantees. I am voting for an independent audit. I am filing for divorce. I will cooperate with every investigation. You will destroy me. No. I pulled my sleeve down over the place he had touched. I am allowing your decisions to reach you. I returned to our marital home with Elena and an independent inventory specialist. The house stood on a quiet street lined with live oaks. I had chosen it because Liam said he wanted stability before we had children. We never had children. Each time I brought up the subject, he said the company needed another year. Now I understood. He had wanted the image of a stable marriage. Not the responsibility of a shared future. Inside, the rooms looked untouched. Our wedding photograph still hung above the fireplace. Sienna's earring lay beneath the sofa. I found it while the inventory specialist photographed the furniture. A small gold hoop. I placed it on the coffee table and continued packing. I took my clothes, books, personal documents, grandmother's dishes, and the desk I had owned before the marriage. I left the expensive sofa, the art Liam chose, and the wine collection he used to impress investors in his office. I found a locked drawer. Elena stopped me from opening it. We document it and request access. I nodded. For years earlier, I would have searched for a key. I no longer needed to discover every detail myself. I only needed to stop protecting the person who hid them. As I packed the final box, Liam arrived. He stood in the doorway. You brought witnesses. I brought an inventory specialist. You think I would accuse you of stealing? Yes. His face tightened. This is still your home. No. It is a jointly owned asset under review. Do you hear yourself? For the first time, he followed me into the bedroom. You cannot erase 4 years. I am not trying to erase them. Then why are you acting like none of it mattered? It mattered enough to teach me never to live this way again. He glanced at the open closet. Most of his clothes remained. Mine were gone. You always said people should not make permanent choices during a crisis. I said people should not make uninformed choices, and this is informed. I know you cheated. I know you forged my signature. I know you paid a captain to ignore warnings. I know you blamed me after the accident. What information do you think I am missing? He sat on the edge of the bed. Sienna says she is pregnant. The room went very quiet. I looked at him. Is she? I do not know. She took a test, and you are telling me because I wanted you to hear it from me. I almost laughed. He had never cared how I heard the truth before. Congratulations or condolences, I said, whichever becomes appropriate. Nora, I am not going to compete with her. I did not ask you to. You brought her into our marriage and waited for me to fight for my place. I am telling you that the position is vacant. He stood. I do not want a life with her. That sounds like her problem. She lied about the timing. You lied about the marriage. I was lost. No, you were comfortable. He blocked the doorway. I made terrible choices, but the storm changed me. The storm exposed you. His face twisted. You are cold. That word again. Cold when I refused. Cold when I remembered. Cold when I stopped crying where he could see it. I lifted the final box. No, Liam, I am finished. Outside, Rachel was waiting beside her car. She had come to collect copies of documents for the civil case. The company audit found something. She said, we placed my box in the trunk. What? Payments from Heart and Tide to a limited liability company registered to Sienna. I know about some of them. There are more. Almost $300,000. For what services? No one can find contracts. The company had paid Sienna nearly enough to empty the emergency reserve, the money that should have funded safety equipment, employee insurance, and crisis response had been routed into her private business. That evening, Sienna posted another video. This time, she was not pale or fragile. She was angry. She accused Liam of pressuring her to continue the trip. She claimed he controlled all financial decisions and had manipulated her into believing I approved the insurance changes. Then she announced her pregnancy. I survived for a reason, she told the camera. My child deserves the truth. Within an hour, Liam's attorney released a statement calling her claims false. Their united story had broken. I watched them turn on each other from the kitchen of my temporary rental for months. They had treated me as the obstacle between them and happiness. Now I was gone. There was no one left to blame except each other. My phone rang. It was Diane. I saw Sienna's video, she said. So did I. She says the baby is Liam's. That is between them. He says she is lying. That is also between them. Nora, please, I do not know what to believe. You could try evidence. She was silent. I understand why you hate us. I do not hate you. Then there is hope. No, I set down my glass of water. Hate would keep me connected. I am leaving. Nora, I hope you recover. I hope you learn from what happened, but I will not return to the role you gave me. What role? The woman who solves everything after your son hurts someone. I ended the call. The next morning, the independent audit confirmed that Sienna's company had received $287,000 without adequate documentation. The emergency safety budget had been reduced during the same period. Hart and Tide had delayed replacing expired life jackets. One of those missing replacements should have been Ben's. The marine casualty hearing began 6 weeks after the storm. By then, my ankle had healed, the mark from my wedding ring had faded, the hearing room was crowded with reporters, attorneys, survivors, and Ben's family. Liam sat with his legal team. Sienna sat on the opposite side of the room with hers. They did not look at each other. I testified first. Elena had prepared me for hostile questions. Speak only to what you know, do not guess, do not argue. Let the documents carry the emotion. I described the warning I received that morning. The investigator displayed the screenshot. I described Liam deleting it from the group chat. The server log confirmed the deletion. I described the official tour cancellation. The tour operator's representative confirmed it. I described the hotel manager's warning. James testified after me. I described the payments to Victor. Bank records appeared on the screen. Then Liam's attorney stood. Mrs. Hart, you are professionally trained to assess risk, correct? Yes. You understood the possible severity of the storm better than most members of the group. Yes. Yet you did not physically prevent your husband from leaving. No. Did you contact every passenger individually? No. Did you tell Ben Lawson that he might die? No. Rachel's hands tightened in her lap. The attorney continued. Instead, you remained in a luxury hotel while the others departed. I remained on shore with an injured ankle after issuing written warnings to the company, insurer, hotel, and harbor office, an injury some witnesses believed you exaggerated. I was medically examined that morning. You did not require hospitalization. No. So you could have gone to the dock. Yes, but you did not. No. Why? Because I remembered drowning, because I remembered Liam choosing Sienna, because I had already died once for their approval. I could not say any of that. I had communicated the danger. They had made their choice. Going to the dock would not have given me authority to arrest them or seize the vessel. Could you have tried harder? I looked directly at him. I spent 4 years trying harder for Liam Hart. The result was that he stopped believing his decisions had consequences. A low murmur moved through the room. The attorney asked no further questions. James testified that Liam rejected the hotel warning. The official tour operator testified that conditions were unsafe for the planned vessel class. Victor testified under an agreement that required him to cooperate. He admitted accepting cash, he admitted changing the route, he admitted turning off the public tracker after Liam complained that investors could see the detour. Then Maya's footage played. The room watched Liam tell Victor that money could make a bad idea good. They watched him prevent employees from wearing life jackets during filming. They watched him give my jacket to Sienna. They watched Ben fall. Rachel stared straight ahead. Liam lowered his head. Sienna covered her mouth. When the video showed Liam passing his injured mother to reach Sienna, Diane began crying in the second row. The footage ended. The lead investigator asked Liam whether he disputed the recording. His attorney whispered to him. Liam leaned toward the microphone. The recording does not show the full context. What context would change your instruction to restart the engine while Mr. Lawson was holding the raft line? I believed the vessel would capsize. Captain Hale told you the engine might pull Mr. Lawson into danger. I was trying to save everyone. You were not the vessel operator. I was the owner of the expedition. There was no authorized expedition. The scheduled tour had been cancelled. Liam looked toward me for 1 second. He seemed to expect me to intervene. I remained still. Sienna testified next. She blamed Liam for the route, the safety decisions, and the insurance policy. Liam's attorney then displayed her messages. Sienna, make sure Nora goes. Investors love the founder couple image. Sienna, if she stays behind, I look like the other woman. Liam, you are the other woman. Sienna, not after the funding. Another message appeared. Sienna, did she die this time? The investigator asked what she meant. Sienna began crying. I was confused. I thought Nora might have followed us on another boat. No one believed her. The final evidence concerned the insurance policy. A digital specialist explained that my signature had been copied from an older document. The authorization was completed from Liam's laptop. Liam claimed I had verbally approved it. I denied that. The insurer produced an audio recording of the broker's confirmation call. Liam had imitated my voice badly, answering questions while claiming The connection was poor, the room went silent. It was not only betrayal, it was theft of my identity. Outside the hearing room, reporters surrounded me. This time, I stopped, microphones moved toward my face. "What do you want people to understand?" a reporter asked. I looked into the cameras. I warned them. They removed the warnings, pressured employees to go, and blamed me when their choices became public. "Do you forgive your husband?" "No." The answer caused a wave of shouting. "Do you feel responsible for surviving?" "No." That answer was quieter, more important. I continued. "Ben Lawson should have returned home. Every employee on that boat should have been free to refuse unsafe work. This was not a tragedy created by one woman staying behind. It was a chain of decisions made by people who believed someone else would pay." I walked away before they could ask about my marriage. On the courthouse steps, Liam caught up with me. "Nora." I kept walking. He moved in front of me. I chose wrong. Cameras turned toward us. His face crumpled. "Tell me how to fix it." I looked at the man I had once loved enough to follow into a storm. "You cannot." After the hearing, public opinion changed within hours. The same commentators who had called me jealous now praised my restraint. The morning show removed Sienna's interview from its social pages. My employer invited me to return. I declined. I had spent too many years helping institutions identify risks they ignored until disaster became expensive. Instead, I negotiated a consulting arrangement that allowed me to choose my clients and refuse assignments without explanation. Hart and Tide's investors withdrew. The company entered court-supervised restructuring. Its remaining assets were directed toward employee claims, Ben's family, and unpaid vendors. My 42% ownership did not make me rich. By the time legitimate claims were paid, little remained. I did not care. Freedom was not the amount I recovered, it was the debt I refused to carry forward. Sienna's pregnancy announcement collapsed under scrutiny. Medical records submitted in a related proceeding showed that the test she displayed online had not belonged to her. She admitted using a friend's positive test because she believed Liam would protect her if he thought a child was involved. Liam released the information through his attorney to damage her credibility. Sienna responded by releasing intimate messages proving the affair had lasted more than a year. They destroyed each other with the truth they had once used to deceive me. The divorce mediation took place 4 months after the storm. Liam sat across from me in a grey suit. He looked older. His attorney offered me the house, my original company investment, and a larger share of the remaining marital savings if I agreed not to discuss the affair publicly. Elena slid the proposal back. "My client has not publicly discussed private sexual details. She has testified about financial and safety misconduct when legally required." Liam looked at me. "You do not need the house. I do not want it." "Then what do you want?" "My separate property, my share of the marital assets, removal from every company obligation, written acknowledgement that I did not authorize the policy change." "You want me to confess?" "I want the settlement to reflect the evidence." His attorney whispered to him. Liam ignored him. "Can we have 5 minutes alone?" "No," Elena said. I raised one hand. "It is fine. The attorneys can remain outside the glass wall." Elena did not like it, but she agreed when the door closed. Liam stared at me. "I dream about the boat every night." I said nothing. "I hear Ben shouting." Rachel hears the silence after he stopped calling. He flinched. "I know, no, you feel guilty. That is not the same as understanding her loss." He looked down at his hands. "I keep thinking about the lobby. If I had stayed with you, none of it would have happened. You did not need to stay with me. You only needed to cancel the trip. I wanted to prove you wrong." "I know. I hated how you always seemed more capable." The admission surprised me. He continued. "Everyone trusted you. The bank trusted you. The employees called you when something went wrong. Even my mother listened when you spoke about money. So you punished me for keeping your life stable. I told myself you controlled everything. I controlled the damage." He nodded slowly. "I understand that now. Understanding after consequences is not transformation. What would transformation look like to you?" "Accepting that I owe you nothing." His eyes filled. "I miss you. You miss access to me." "That is not true." "Then name one thing you miss that did not benefit you." He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The silence answered for him. I stood. "Sign the agreement." "Liam," he looked at the papers. "If I do, it is really over." It was over when you handed my life jacket to her. His hand shook as he signed outside the room. Diane waited. She had not been invited. She walked toward me with a cane. I wanted to say goodbye. You could have called Elena. I thought you might refuse. I would have. She nodded as if she deserved that. I sold the lake house. I remembered the property. Diane had refused to sell it even when Liam's first company failed. She called it his inheritance. I am putting the money into Ben's compensation fund. That is your decision. I should have done more earlier. Yes, she swallowed. I kept thinking a good mother protected her son. A good mother does not protect him from knowing right from wrong. Tears filled her eyes. I lost you. You never thought you could. She reached toward me but stopped before touching my arm. I am sorry. For the first time, I believed she meant it. Belief did not require forgiveness. I hope you become someone who does not need another woman to clean up your family, I said. Then I left. The divorce became final 3 weeks later. I stood outside the courthouse with the stamped order in my hand. No music played, no one applauded. The sky did not change. Freedom arrived quietly. A door closed. My name belonged only to me again. Maya called in early spring. Investigators had recovered additional footage from the camera's damaged internal storage. 11 minutes. The final 11 minutes before the device stopped recording. She asked whether I wanted to see it. No, I said. Then I changed my answer. Yes, not because I needed more proof against Liam, because part of me was still standing on that boat in my first life, waiting for him to turn back. The viewing took place in a private room at Elena's office. Only Maya and I attended. The footage began after the hull split. Water covered most of the deck. Diane and Maya were already moving toward the rock shelf. Liam carried Sienna. Victor shouted that the remaining section would not hold. Someone asked about Ben. Liam said, "He is gone." The certainty in his voice made Maya beside me close her eyes. The camera angle shifted. Sienna clung to Liam. "You said Nora would be here," she cried. "I know. You said we would get the founder footage and come back. I know. If she had come, she would have stopped this." That sentence struck harder than I expected. Even Sienna had known I was the person who prevented disasters. They resented me for it. They relied on me for it. Liam shouted toward the others, "There is room on the upper section for 2 more. Victor tried to climb first. Liam pushed him back. "Sienna cannot stand." Victor stared at him. "She has a life jacket. The current will take her, so help your mother." Liam looked toward Diane. Maya had one arm around her, pulling her across the broken rail. He hesitated, then he continued upward with Sienna. The footage showed the rescue raft caught against a section of railing. There was enough room for more than one person. In my first life, Liam had told me there was room for only one. He had lied. He had not chosen Sienna because he had no alternative. He had chosen her because saving me would have required effort. A wave hit. The camera rolled. When the image stabilized, Sienna was inside the raft. Liam held the line. Victor reached for it. Liam kicked his hand away. "If everyone grabs it, it will flip," Victor shouted. "It is rated for 6. The raft had room for 6. My death had never been necessary." My hands began trembling. Maya paused the video. "Do you want to stop?" "No." The final minutes showed Liam securing Sienna inside the raft, then climbing in beside her. He released the line before Diane and Maya reached it. The current carried the raft east. In this life, rescue crews found them hours later. In my first life, they had watched me disappear from the same raft. The screen went black. I sat without speaking. Maya touched my shoulder. "You look like you were there." I was. She assumed I meant emotionally. Maybe that was enough. Elena entered after we finished. "The footage has been provided to the investigators and civil attorneys," she said. "It may affect the remaining claims. Do not release it online." I said. Maya looked surprised. "People should see what he did. The investigators should see it. Ben's family should see what is relevant. A court should see it." I looked at the black screen. "But strangers do not need to turn the worst moments of your lives into entertainment." Maya nodded slowly. "Sienna would have posted it. Liam would have edited it. I chose neither." Months later, Liam entered a plea agreement concerning insurance fraud, falsified electronic authorization, obstruction related to company records, and safety violations connected to the charter. Victor faced separate penalties and loss of his operating credentials. Civil findings assigned substantial responsibility to Liam. Victor, and Heart and Tide, Sienna was held liable for false statements, undocumented transfers, and her role in pressuring the crew to continue the promotional trip. The outcomes did not bring Ben back, they did not erase the fear from Maya's eyes, they did not restore Diane's trust in her son. Consequences were not the same as healing, but they ended the lie that no one was responsible. Before Liam began serving his sentence, he sent me a letter. Elena asked whether I wanted it. I read it once. He wrote that he understood now. He wrote that he had loved me badly. He wrote that every night he imagined choosing differently. At the end, he asked whether I might visit him one day. I placed the letter in the shredder. A person did not earn access to me by finally recognizing the value of what he destroyed. 1 year after the storm, Port Haven installed a memorial near the harbor. A bronze plaque carried Ben Lawson's name. Below it were words chosen by Rachel. No one should have to risk a life to keep a job. Former Heart and Tide employees attended the ceremony. Maya came carrying a new camera, but she did not film the families without permission. Diane stood near the back. She looked smaller than I remembered. Sienna did not attend. Her online career had collapsed. Her remaining accounts were devoted to defending herself against people who no longer believed her. Liam was absent for obvious reasons. I stood beside Rachel as the plaque was revealed. Ben would have hated all this attention, she said. What would he have preferred, a bench and a food truck? I smiled. Maybe we can add the bench. She laughed through her tears. After the ceremony, she handed me a small envelope. Inside was a photograph of Ben helping Maya carry equipment on the morning of the trip. He told her to stay behind, Rachel said. She told him she could not afford to lose the job. So he went because he did not want her alone. I looked at the photograph. Ben had been smiling. He should be remembered for more than the way he died, I said. That is why I gave it to you. The compensation fund created from Heart and Tide's remaining assets, Diane's lake house, insurance settlements, and civil recoveries helped Ben's mother relocate and paid the injured employees' medical expenses. I contributed part of my divorce settlement to a separate legal support program for workers pressured into unsafe travel. I named it the Safe Passage Project. Not after myself, not after Liam. The purpose mattered more than the person receiving credit. My consulting practice grew slowly. I worked from a small office overlooking the river. Clients hired me to evaluate crisis plans, employee safety systems, and hidden financial exposure. Some listened, some did not. The difference was that I no longer tied my worth to whether another adult accepted my warning. I gave the facts. I documented my advice. I walked away when people demanded that I carry risks they refused to acknowledge. I bought a townhouse in my own name the first night. I slept on a mattress surrounded by unopened boxes. There was no dining table, no art on the walls, no one asking me to find a document, solve a debt, or apologize for being right. The emptiness felt clean. Weeks later, Diane mailed me a box. Inside were photographs from my marriage and several items I had left behind. At the bottom was a handwritten note. I spent years calling your boundaries cruelty because your boundaries prevented Liam from using you. I am sorry I helped him believe love meant endless access. I did not respond. Her apology belonged to her recovery. My silence belonged to mine. I sold the wedding ring. The jeweler asked whether I wanted to redesign it. No, I said. He offered store credit. I would prefer cash. I deposited the money into the Safe Passage Project. It funded the first legal consultation for a young deckhand dismissed after refusing to work on an overloaded charter. That mattered more than preserving the shape of a promise Liam had never honored. On the anniversary of the storm, I returned to the beach alone. The weather was calm. Children collected shells near the water. Sailboats moved across the horizon. The sea looked harmless. I knew better than to call it harmless, but danger and beauty could exist in the same place. The ocean had not betrayed me. Liam had. For months after my rebirth, I believed my victory was staying off the boat. It was not. Avoiding the storm saved my body. Everything I did afterward saved my life. I stopped transferring money. I preserved the messages. I allowed witnesses to speak. I refused false responsibility. I walked out of the family meeting. I signed the divorce papers. I destroyed the letter. None of those actions felt dramatic when I made them. They felt small. A cancelled payment, a saved screenshot, a closed door, a word spoken without apology. No, that word had done what love never could, it had returned me to myself. I walked along the shoreline until I reached the harbor wall. For one moment, I remembered the other life: cold water, broken metal, Liam pulling Sienna into the raft, my hands losing their grip in that life. I had waited for him to turn around. I had believed that if he saw my fear clearly enough, he would remember I was his wife. He had seen me. He had simply chosen himself. The memory no longer crushed me, it clarified everything. I took out my phone. The shared location setting that once connected me to Liam had been disabled for nearly a year. The Hart family chat had been archived. Every joint account was closed. Every obligation had been divided by law. There was nothing left for him to take. There was nothing left for me to prove. Behind me, the memorial ceremony was ending. Ahead of me, the shore curved toward a part of the city I had never explored. I continued walking. In my first life, the storm swallowed me because I allowed other people's choices to determine whether I deserved safety. In my second life, I did not defeat the ocean. I did not save the people who mocked me from every consequence. I did not make my husband love me correctly. I did something harder. I believed myself before anyone else did. I chose the shore, and this time, I never looked back.